DJ Leroy.
Night Watchman. So, Night Watchman, I understand that you've been hanging a bit. I understand that you were hanging out at one of the many galas for the part 2 of gala season.
Yeah, I went to one. You went to like 10.
Why are you throwing shade that early? Come on. Why?
I'm not throwing shade. I just, I'm not built for galas like you are. But I would never miss. There's 2 that I wouldn't miss. One is Poncé, which is a great organization that does work in terms of landlord and tenant abuse. Mm-hmm. And the other one is coming up, which is the 60th anniversary of the New Heritage Theater.
Wow. Okay. Very good, Night Watchman. So you are indeed in the know. Well, in the know, do you know about the Harlem African Burial Ground in East Harlem? Do you know about that?
I do know about it. I remember when it was discovered, but I am really anticipating hearing about how things have moved on and where it is now. And so I think we have a couple of experts who are going to let us in on it.
Oh, well, Night Watchman, you know what? Why don't I bring out this young lady who I understand is, of course, one of my alma maters, being in New York City EDC. It can only be Saradine Pierre. Yes.
Hello.
How you doing?
Good. How are y'all doing?
Good. Good. So
Great,
you are ready to be embraced into our safe space?
Great. I feel so welcomed. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So Night Watchman, one of the things that you did not know, you didn't know that, the city and then each borough has a historian. You didn't know that.
I did not know that, no.
Well, then you know what? You're going to find something out today. Yes. Sharon!
Good morning.
All right. How are you, my dear?
Welcome.
I'm good.
All right. So, Night Watchman, I am hearing a little bit of an echo of feedback. What do you think?
I'm not hearing it.
Oh, you're not? Okay. All right. Then, like you say, we are going forward. So, with that said, Saradine, I got to put you out there. I got to say, now I know at 126th Street and 2nd Avenue, we discovered that there were some bones of formerly enslaved Africans. Do tell, what's going on?
Yeah, so the Harlem African Burial Ground, the history of that goes way back, like back to the early 2000s. People from the Elmendorf Reformed Church, that's off 121st Street.
Oh yeah, Reverend Singletary. You know I love her. Yes.
Singletary. Yeah, exactly. She did her doctoral research about the church, and through records realized that the Harlem African Burial Ground existed not too far, and based on church records, she was like, okay, this burial ground is probably still here, but right now it's been being built over. And so she, created a group, involved Sharon and Melissa Mark Viverito to really advocate for this burial ground and see, what exactly is the deal with this burial ground and how can we really honor it and restore, dignity to this site. And so she approached EDC back in 2015, and so they did an archaeology investigation. It was a first phase investigation, and they did uncover human remains on the site. And so through that investigation, we were able to prove that the burial ground does exist at this site off 126th Street. And so after that, then we went away to figure out, what are the next steps? How can we figure out what to do with this site, because right now it's just a bus depot. Right now, there's no one exactly on the site. It's just, a vacant lot that's being managed by EDC, but, that's not something you want to see with the burial ground. We want to make sure that people know what this site is and, create a space for reflection, but also honoring the people who were buried there. So right now, EDC, we're helping to lead a second phase of an archaeological investigation to really understand what's under the entire site. And right now that's still underway. We're figuring out, exactly what the findings are. And so that's something, we're excited to share once we have that information. if folks, are interested, I encourage them to, look at our website and for a newsletter for updates, because that's how we'll share those.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you for that. And Sharon, now
Yes.
I have some history here, some big time history. So Harlem Community Development Corporation, as you know, with Thomas Lunkey, were the ones who put together the Harlem African Burial Ground Task Force. That included you, that included Reverend Singletary, and then, of course, Melissa Mark Viverito, who was of course, the council member for the area at the time. So you tell me your recollections of that task force and the important work.
Well, obviously, it's enormously important work, not only for the city, politically, socially, but certainly culturally. It is important to the Black community in terms of African American history. So there are many, many ways in which the discovery of this African burial ground is important to the city, the state, and the country. If you go back to 16th century or before, the Dutch governor Peter Stuyvesant was approached, and he wrote to the government in the Netherlands to help to create what we now know as the village of Harlem. And so long as 12 families and the church presence was physically on the location, the village could be inaugurated.
Yes.
So that history goes far back. And in terms of, New York history, for instance, if you go into the historical records and you do research, free and enslaved Africans are said to have built the approximately 9-mile road from what was New Amsterdam to what became New Harlem.
Wow. With one A as opposed to two A's, correct?
Two A's in terms of and 2 A's in terms of the Dutch spelling. Yes.
Gotcha. And I guess one of the things that I often look at Saradine, the number 3 destination for all international tourism, of course, is Harlem in northern Manhattan. So I'm thinking in my head, especially when we look at some of the visions for that particular site, often said that we might have a visitor center. We may have, of course, a memorial to the formerly enslaved Africans. What is EDC feeling about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like Harlem, obviously, it's an arts and culture hub. There's so much history and just like excitement that goes on in Harlem, and so many people visit it because of its arts and culture history. And so with this site, EDC, we want to make sure to build upon that history and that legacy. So on the site, there'll obviously be a memorial dedicated to, to the people who are enslaved and the people who are buried there. But the entire site, it's a full city block. It's almost 3 acres. So, we want to be able to use the rest of the site in a productive way. And so with that, we'll also have an education and cultural center. So that center will, likely have a lot of programming related to the history of the burial ground, but also be used as a space, we're open to different ideas of how we want to, activate it. If we want to make it more focused on the arts or music, that's something that, that's a possibility. And so we definitely want to, expand, Harlem's arts and cultural reach. And I think the education and cultural center will hit on those.
Beautiful. So NightWatchman, did you know all of this?
I definitely did not know about the road and the incorporation of the village of Harlem. So I thank you, Sharon. It's always great to learn new things about the history of the city and the history of our participation in the city. What I want to ask you, Sharon, is to talk a little bit about the first African burial ground that was found down in the financial district and how that process evolved and what we were able to take out of that process that informed the discovery of this uptown African burial ground.
Well, one of the things that I can say is, when I do research, when I do presentations, when I talk to people, what is perhaps not widely known, but should be known and is an evolving discussion, is the fact that there are African burial grounds that we are going to uncover all over, not just within the city of New York, but within the entire country.
Wow.
Because who built the city, state, and nation? It was on enforced labor.
Yes.
And Africans brought with them, contrary to what's misinformed and not discussed, is that when people came out of Africa, when they were forced out, when they were brought out of Africa, and, in terms of scholars and researchers, the numbers vary, but somewhere between 10 and 20 million people.
Wow.
When you think of that largesse of how many people were forced out of their spaces for the transatlantic slave trade, to create economic viability and production here in this country by force. So, who did the labor? And people, Africans, already had spiritual beliefs, languages, cultures, all kinds of things. When we came, we brought skills and knowledge in a variety of areas: food cultivation, agriculture, metalworking, mining, etc. So, contrary to what is misused and not taught, that people came here with skills. We were a needed commodity to build this nation. So people died near where they lived and worked. So we are going to increasingly uncover African burial grounds in a number of places and spaces. I thankfully worked along with National Park Service Commissioner Shirley McKinney on the Lower Manhattan African Burial Ground, and that was a monumental undertaking because initially, as we know, the city was in Lower Manhattan, in the area around what is now, City Hall and Duane Street and Foley Square and all
Foley
those
Square.
areas.
Yep.
And so there were many, if memory serves me correctly, maybe 400 or better um, uh, de- deceased remains, that were found, and those that could be uncovered and recovered were eventually reinterred in what we think now of the Lower Manhattan African Burial Ground.
Yes. And as a matter of fact, Sharon, I do remember one time I volunteered my services to be an MC for Dr. Lorenzo Pace, and of course, Triumph of the Human Spirit. So that is totally clear. I get that. And you know what? Pivoting now to Saradine, and you may not have a date in mind, but I know that there are two iconic sites in Harlem that will be RFP'd in 2025. I'm thinking of course, one that I would typically get calls about. I say, no, that's not us. That's the city. And that could only be, of course, Mart 125. That's one. And then the other being the Harlem African Burial Ground. What perchance might be the plans for the date of an RFQ or RFP?
Yeah, with Harlem African Burial Ground, at least, I can speak to that. Right now, we're working on an education and engagement campaign, and that's going on through mid 2025.
Nice.
But after that, we will actually plan on releasing an RFP for the operator for the Education and Cultural Center. So, like I mentioned, this would be the place, either a museum or some sort of arts and culture space dedicated to the history of the site. but also, open to ideas about how to, what sort of programming, what sort of, community activities we want to include. So we're going to release that opportunity and hope for, organizations within New York who are interested in this opportunity. We want, them to apply. So yeah, we'll send more information about that in the new year. But yeah, we're really excited to activate this site and, see what the responses are, and hopefully to, be able to sign on an organization who's really dedicated to Harlem and want to, they want to amplify this history.
Beautiful, beautiful. And certainly, Sharon, tell me that you're familiar with Jennifer Tosh.
Yes.
Okay, beautiful, beautiful. So she'll be coming back into the city from, of course, Amsterdam. So so I'll be actually trying to set up some meetings for her that include,
Yes,
of course, you.
yes,
All right.
Curtis. And the last time she was here, we met.
Ah, excellent, excellent, excellent. And really looking at that close, let's say, connection between, of course, New York City, and then remember with that particular presence there in Albany.
Yes.
Knowing that, of course, you have the Schuyler Mansion right there in Albany, and
Mm-hmm.
in terms of what was happening with indigenous people and the enslaved folk there, because a lot of times there is the narrative that that slavery was really was just in the South, but that's not the case.
Oh, no, no, far from it. Far from it. Slavery occurred in many places and spaces because the need for exploited labor to not only build the infrastructure, but remember, economic viability drove Europeans to branch out to
Hmm.
this part of the world.
Yes,
And
yes.
so, when many enslaved people were first brought, they were taken to the Caribbean for, further abuses, the kind of seasoning, which is an awful word, before they were brought here to the United States, what we now know as the United States, to the Americas, we shall say, to produce the labor, um, and the cultivation and the construction to build, this city from Lower Manhattan as it increased up. It was in the late 1800s, as urbanization became, the goal,
Hmm.
that the city continued to expand northward.
Hmm. Hmm.
And because what we now know as the Negro or African Burial Ground was in force for 2 centuries, from the 17th to the 19th century.
Wow, wow. Okay, I got you now.
And regrettably, not only was there a move to erase this history and to
Hmm.
bury it, even while burials were taking place,
Hmm.
wealthy Europeans who owned property or who had economic um, plans or work in that area would routinely use, even when funerals were going on, they would bring their animals to graze, and
Wow,
all kinds of atrocities happened
wow, wow.
to these folks on this land that we now know as the African Burial Ground.
Mm.
So our intent is not only to tell this history, which is vitally important because Black history is American history.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
So not only to tell this history, but to recognize, to memorialize all of the people, including indigenous. The second wave of archaeology has
Hmm.
uncovered some indigenous remains, and we want, as we go forward and as we talk about this project, for people to understand that we respect all diversity, we respect all ethnicity. Of
Hmm.
course, it is mainly African descended, but we respect all. So that the plans are, I guess, 2 or 3 phase. One of
Hmm.
which is to create an outdoor memorial that will, honor, memorialize, respect all of the cultures represented, and then to have an indoor cultural education center which we will do educational and cultural programming because, you know, those of you who are in the media, et cetera, know that in 30 states and regrettably increasing, it is no longer a goal to teach Black studies.
Mm, hmm. Gotcha. Well, you know what? Speaking of that note, Saradine, will you travel with me out of the U.S. because I know your history, right? So I'd like to travel to the shores of Haiti, and just listening on what Sharon had said. Are there, let's say, if I should travel to Port-au-Prince, Haiti, would I see maybe any statues of Toussaint L'Ouverture or any talk of the revolution, which was the first successful revolt in the Northern Hemisphere? What would I see in Haiti?
Yeah, I feel like that's definitely something people in Haiti are especially proud of. You know, my dad, yeah, would talk to me about Toussaint Louverture like all the time, or Dessalines. Like that's something that Haitians, like as being like the first,
Mm,
free nation, like that's something
yeah.
that people are proud of. And so I think because I grew up with that, I felt really like inspired to be a part of this project too, to
Wow.
like really uncover Black histories that people have tried to forgot or
Hmm.
to forget. I feel like growing up, people didn't necessarily talk about the Haitian Revolution,
Hmm.
just in school, and what Sharon's speaking to. Unfortunately, Black history is being even more and more erased, and so I think that's why this project is so important. Of really trying to reach out to people, make sure folks know about this history, and also get inspired to know that they come from a really strong lineage, and that
Yes.
Harlem people in Harlem, Black people, Indigenous people, they have been here for so long. Like we have history here, and so that's why it's so important for us to really memorialize this space. And so we're really excited to really make progress on this project.
Beautiful. And Night Watchman, certainly, man, because what Sharon said, whatnot, and actually, I'm sorry, what you even said earlier about the complicated relationship that Haiti has with, let's say, France, right? Uh,
Mhm.
so what types of things do you see in the development of this site there in East Harlem?
Well, I'm more interested in the complicated relationship that these sites have to. So the first African burial ground that was found downtown, I guess, was discovered on what was now then considered now private property, and so I
Mm,
know that there were probably some challenges as far as developing that. And I'm interested to hear from Sharon how that experience shaped. The development of the Uptown African Burial Ground, which from my listening sounds like that was on property that was more or less site controlled by the city or at least public entities. Is that correct?
Well, um, I guess in part, yes. As you know, uh, the burial ground, as I said, was enforced for from the 17th to the 19th centuries. Um, all of it informed, and unfortunately, that space, once it was no longer considered a burial ground, and what actually happened was in the mid 19th century, in the 1860s, approximately 1863, when the Woodlawn Cemetery
mm,
was
hmm.
created in the Bronx,
Yes.
there was outreach to the descendants of European families, and they were asked if they would want to disinter their relatives' remains and reinter them in the Woodlawn Cemetery in the Bronx so that that cemetery space could be created. But
Hmm.
there was no attempt at all to honor, to recognize, to reach out to African descended people to the extent that they might have been approached or found, so
Hmm.
that those remains remained in the ground,
Gotcha. Yeah.
unnoticed, unrecognized. Um, so that's part of that history. Unfortunately, even though there is tremendous scholarship, tremendous research, I continue to conduct research. You know, I took the time. Curtis Archer and I go back a long time. You know, not only when I became the deputy borough historian for the borough of Manhattan, but you know, my background is diverse as well in terms of not for, being a not-for-profit executive and managing and developing programs and negotiating and doing all these kinds of things. My development as a public historian came a little bit later, but is, you know, very, very much focused on making sure, not only for this burial space, but in general, that our people, young people, old people, a diversity of people, recognize and acknowledge history, and especially Black history, because, you know, it's difficult to know where you're going if you don't know your origins, if you don't know where you came from.
Absolutely.
And in terms of our youth, I'm a firm believer that if they knew the strength on which they stand, there would be less violence, less division overall.
Yes, true. Well said. Well said. Saradine, I definitely have to say, you know, with EDC, in terms of your engagement with the community and also the protection of the site, what measures have you guys been taking?
Yeah, so we're doing, you know, like I mentioned, a years-long engagement effort. We contracted this Harlem-based firm called the Bridge Philanthropic Consulting, and so
Okay.
we've been doing a lot of programming related to, you know, just educating people on the site. We've been going to a lot of, you know, doing a lot of presentations, just reaching out to people. We were at Harlem Week, you know, passing out flyers, just letting people know, do you know this burial
Nice.
ground exists off
Nice.
126th Street? And so many people, you know, didn't know about that work.
Correct.
So that's sort of, you know, the types of events we've done so far. And now we're gearing up for more interactive events with our consultant. We're planning on, you know, really engaging different age groups, including the youth, but also our elders. You know, one of the big things about this project is history and legacy. And so we really want to also, you know, engage the elder community and really reflecting on their history and being able to like share that with the youth. So we're planning on doing, you know, some programming at senior centers where we create what we're calling sort of these history legacy journals and asking people to reflect on their personal history and how it, you know, how, you know, the burial ground allows them to like reflect on, you know, their family history and what it means to have a legacy. So, you know, we're having, you know, events that are a bit more interactive and creative and allowing people to really think about, you know, how the history of the site and, you know, what it means for them and their life and how it allows them to reflect and think about their family history. So, you know, we're planning on doing a lot more programming in the next few months. And so we'll keep people updated on our website. And we'll also have like a newsletter that talks about our upcoming events that people can sign up for using our website link.
Beautiful, beautiful. And further on that note, Saradine, certainly we do know that ultimately a developer who's selected, hopefully they have the vision and they also have the engagement with the community to help them realize that vision. One of the things I certainly do know, let's say for EDC, in an ideal world, what might you guys see as a good, let's say, use for the site? I already know about the education and memorial component. What about, is there also maybe an affordable housing component as well?
Yeah, that's right. So, you know, there'll be a mixed use site as a part of, you know, this whole development program. And so that'll include affordable housing as well as like some commercial space.
Nice.
And so when we're looking for a developer, we really want them to engage with the community and figure out, you know, how to be a good neighbor and create a site that isn't, you know, that's like, you know, able to be, you know, really like it works well with the memorial and is you know, able to fit in terms of like the whole city block. Cause that's something, you know, we don't want just some random developer coming in, just building a housing site and just leaving and not being part of the community. And so
Right.
we really once that opportunity comes up, we're really going to look, critically and carefully at the types of organizations and if they do have a history of community programming and really, getting community feedback. That's something that'll be really important for us.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I'm thinking, remember, Sharon, I'm going to zoom out to you first and just say, because I know your work in Manhattan. Manhattan is everything. Remember, this is where I live, this is where I work. But we also have the Republic of Brooklyn, okay? And the Republic of Brooklyn has, of course, Weeksville and
Yes.
other historic sites. Now, is there any collaboration that you have with, let's say, the Brooklyn historian?
No, and as you know, Curtis, what happens is that there is the opportunity to have historians in various areas. We used to have, some time ago, we used to all get together, the five boroughs, where there was a historian presence and meet. That unfortunately, doesn't happen these days. But part of the reason is that there is the opportunity to have a historian in these areas, but there isn't a legislative mandate that one has to be appointed. You
Gotcha.
perhaps know that.
Yep. Yes, I do. Okay, well, I tried. So Night Watchman.
But
Go ahead.
because of my commitment on a number of different levels, I'm going to stay in this fight.
Okay, that's what I actually wanted to hear. So thank you for that. Yes, and Sharon, just so you know, so Night Watchman, and I have to give him some props. So, because he does always claim Harlem, because he was indeed born in Harlem. Okay, so
you should stop there because you're probably going to say something you don't want to say. So just leave it, leave it there. But let's get back to the topic.
Go ahead.
So first of all, I'm really loving how this project is developing because I think it is going to have a profound impact on the east end of 125th Street. And to have an educational cultural center there. I know that they are still planning to extend the 2nd Avenue subway up to 125th Street. So it feels like it's going to fit well with Harlem's presence as a tourist destination and draw traffic down to that end of it and help shape the development. And the fact that this project also has affordable housing built into it, as well as education and legacy. I think it's really a tremendous development. I'm curious as to whether there is going to be interaction between the memorial site downtown and this new facility.
Yeah, I can speak to that. I think one thing we want to really incorporate, like as we're doing this engagement, we want to reach out to other, burial grounds, see, the type of work that they've done before. I think right now, we have been in conversation with folks who are involved in the Lower Manhattan Burial Ground. Rodney Leon, who helped work on that project. He's on our engagement team for the Harlem African Burial Ground. So, we don't want to just exist in silos. We really want to collaborate with other teams, build upon, the knowledge that they have built, and, they've, done this work before and they've done it first. So we really, we want to lean on this as well. And so that's something we're doing. That's ongoing.
Nice.
I can also speak to and perhaps add to that conversation. The architect and sculptor, as Saradine was saying, Rodney Leon, and I have been in conversation about the creation of a resource that will tap into a number of African burial grounds. And he's creating a board of directors and has asked me to serve on that board. So
Sharon,
yes, there's
Sharon, hold that thought for 1 second. Night Watchman, I'm getting an echo. Am I the only one hearing that? I'm just checking.
no.
Yeah,
You hear
I'm
it
hearing
too?
the
Okay.
echo.
So whatever you can do to suppress it, okay? Sharon, I'm coming back to you. Go ahead,
Okay.
Sharon.
What I was saying is that the architect and sculptor Rodney Leon
Mm-hmm.
and I have been in discussion about African burial grounds, how we can connect them, how we can bring that history to the fore. And so he is in the process of creating a board of directors that will focus on African burial grounds. And he has asked me to serve on that board. And of course, I said yes.
Beautiful,
So
beautiful,
there,
yes.
so there are going to be additional resources and connections in that regard.
Excellent, excellent. Well, Saradine, I have to then give EDC some major props because it seems that in terms of the team that has been assembled are truly reflective of the historical narrative. You have folks from the community who know and love Black culture, who also know how important this particular site is going to be to the community at large and beyond. So definitely.
I mean, sure, I will take those props, but that work is all because of the initiative. So folks like Sharon, the Reverend,
Yes.
Melissa,
Yes.
it was through their work. They've really advocated this for the site for decades, and it was through their advocacy, back in 2017 when they advocated in city council, they were able to get this, the ideas and the goals of this project memorialized in a points of agreement letter. So now it's within the city's rezoning framework that this site will have an open air memorial. Like that is now written and is codified. And so that was through years and years of advocacy and hard work from our initiative. So I also want to give them their respect and their due praise.
Absolutely. You know what, Night Watchman, don't we love it when flowers are given forward?
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, this is just such important work. I really appreciate both Sharon and Sarah's comments about eracism and how important it is for us in this city, in this state. Because New York, look, New York had slavery, but we did end it earlier than the rest of the country and started on a path toward equality. And I'd like to think that the 2024 and 2025 version of New York will continue to be a safe space for not only equality, but preservation of the real history that is sometimes we have to go through many, many layers to uncover it and then share it and preserve it. So Sharon, I appreciate tremendously the work that you're doing and your passion and commitment to doing this work.
Well, thank you. I might also mention to you, because that may not be known, that a few years ago, I was asked by the initiative to represent the initiative in Albany. So I went up to defend the project and it was successful. So the Harlem African Burial Ground is now listed on the National Register of Historic Places.
Wow, beautiful.
That's great.
Yes, indeed. Well, one of the things I guess I just have to then go back to you, Saradine, that I know with EDC, sometimes the community's wishes, hopes, and whatnot are not necessarily realized. But it seems like with this one, it seems as if you're really, really listening and engaging. Is that a result of the early work that was done in that direction?
Yeah, I think, with this project, it's, taken quite some time because we do want to listen and really figure out ways to incorporate people's feedback. We don't want to just say we're engaging folks and then not actually, produce any sort of action. And I think one thing that we've learned from, past projects, for example, with the Flatbush Burial Ground.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that was a bit controversial, and folks, didn't necessarily want to see a development on the site. That's what the community requested. And so through that experience, we listened and decided to, not go through any, more plans related to a development, because that's what the community requested. And so I think with this project, through the engagement that the initiative did, a lot of people want to see a different use of the site. And I think that is because, right now there's, a bus depot. Right now there's not necessarily anything going on. And so I think a lot of folks requested, they want to see, something different, something that beautifies the site, something that, memorializes it. And so I think through that engagement that the initiative helped lead, we're able to like incorporate that feedback into, the city's points of agreements and through the rezoning. And so I think while it is, a longer process, it's because, we are being really thoughtful and engaging folks and trying to incorporate their feedback.
Beautiful. I was speaking to Jana earlier, and she had reminded me that we had first met at I guess it was community town hall forum over at the social work school there on 3rd Avenue. So I'm thinking, are there still specific community charrettes that are happening to realize this project?
Yeah, I think, through our engagement, we'll definitely have more events where folks are able to meet the team and provide any sort of either feedback or just any questions. Yeah, that town hall that we had last year was specifically focused on archaeology, and we
Mm-hmm.
had, the folks from the archaeology team on the panel to answer any questions. And I think that's something we'll want to recreate as well, because, I'm not an archaeologist. Like I don't know necessarily, the technical ins and outs. And so I think it's really helpful to have those folks, especially in front of the community. And, another thing we want to do is also introduce, the concept of archaeology to the youth and like really have them think about that as a potential career path, because, what they do is really interesting. And I, want to be able to, expose people to that, because that wasn't something I was familiar with. And so we'll have more events where the folks especially will be able to interact with the archaeology team, learn a bit more about the project, and provide, some input on what the future of the site would look like.
Gotcha. One thing I did hear, Sharon, and Night Watchman had brought it up in terms of the collaboration between uptown and downtown in terms of that. But I'm also thinking about because African Americans, we have a long and glorious history in New York. So my mind is now going out to, of course, to Queens, southeastern Queens, and I'm thinking, of course, of Rufus King Manor. Has there been any discussion or collaboration with what's happening there?
Not yet, but
Mm-hmm.
as you know, we are open to all sorts of collaborations. I mentioned
Okay.
the indigenous community,
Mm-hmm.
New
Mm-hmm.
York, even that particular area,
Yes.
as the burial ground was physically desecrated,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
it was used as, a site for recreation.
Mm-hmm.
It was used as a trolley barn, as a military base, and all kinds of uses
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that ignored and erased that history and disrespected the fact that there was a burial ground there.
Yes.
So
Yes.
one of the things that's important to indicate is that as we're in the process of developing not only programming, but the outdoor memorial, no building will be on the actual footprint of the burial ground.
Gotcha. Perfect. Yes. All right.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So that, we are trying to touch all of the bases and make sure that this will be, an active, uh, reasonable, rational, and historic, not only legacy, but educational and cultural presence that will connect to, all of the culture and history that is so rich and widely uh, useful,
Mm-hmm.
not only to our presence, but our future.
Yes, yes. And Sharon, one of the things I'm also thinking, because we know about, of course, the Harlem African Burial Ground, but also the Armory at 142nd and 5th Avenue, we know that that was the site of the Harlem Hellfighters, for God's sake, you know.
Mhm.
So, is there maybe going to be a collaboration synergy with those elements that still exist, let's say, in northern Manhattan? What do you think?
I would think so. I would think so. We want this education and cultural center to be a location, to be a center for a number of different initiatives, a number of different collaborations, because we want the focus to be educating people of a diverse nature. When I do presentations, one of the things that I invite people to think about is that Black descended people are a beautiful mosaic that are extremely diverse. So one of the things I say when I do presentations is however one wants to describe oneself, Afro-Caribbean, Afro-Latino, Afro-Indigenous, et cetera, that's okay.
Yes, yes.
Because
So,
we represent a beautiful diversity across cultures, nations, many ethnicities, languages, et cetera. So, that's the perspective that I operate from.
excellent. Night Watchman, what you got for me, man? Talk to me.
I got. We're going to take a look at the EDC website.
Oh,
And,
okay. Night Watchman, go ahead.
So, Saradine, maybe you can tell us a little bit about what people can find when they go to EDC's website about the African Burial Ground.
Yeah, so if you scroll down, yeah, we have that lovely picture of Sharon over here from one of our old engagement events. So yeah, you scroll down, it has, information about the history of the burial ground and how the site was discovered, sort of, talking about, the points that we hit on today about, how it was the Low Dutch, Reformed church that turned to Elmendorf. We talked about, the rediscovery of how when the task force was originally formed, how that advocacy began, and how EDC got involved. And so that's in this section here with the rediscovery. And so if you keep scrolling down, and yeah, as you see in this picture, this is back in 2017 when after the first archaeological investigation, we had, a ceremony honoring the remains that were found and reinterring them. And so that's that picture there. And then here, this talks more about the vision of the site, as we were talking about the memorial, the cultural center and education center, as well as the vision for affordable housing. And so here is the what's next section. So that talks about the ongoing archaeology work, the engagement that we've been doing, as well as here there are links to sign up for our newsletter and project updates. And we also have some links of like old presentations, talks about, the town hall, Curtis, that you're at. It has links to the old archaeological investigation if y'all want to peruse through that. So it has all of this information here. And yeah, if you see in the middle where it says sign up, that's where you can sign up for our newsletter where we'll have the most up-to-date information about the project.
Wow. Oh, Lord. Night Watchman, you constantly surprise me, okay? That you just throw out there. Everybody just think that you're a pretty face, but I know differently.
I'm disappointed that you're surprised.
You just indeed. Well, Sharon, like I said, because I know you and I know your skill level, your competency level, I'm really, really just confident that this is going to be a real beautiful project for the community.
That's my intent.
Yes. Okay. So once this is put to bed to rest, what other things are you looking at in the borough or in the community of Harlem?
Well, I'm engaged in a few interesting projects. One of which is I will continue to work on. I've offered my services to work on a project involving the history of Black medicine in Harlem, and particularly
Mm.
Harlem Hospital.
That saved Dr. King, if I'm not mistaken.
And and some other projects. So
Mhm.
my work and commitment extends, clearly is focused on this project, but extends beyond it, because we have such a rich and important history, and it needs to be uncovered and shared.
Yes, 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 indeed. And speaking of which, you do know that one of the projects that the state is involved with, and in collaboration, of course, with the city, that of course is the National Urban League site.
Yes, yes.
Okay, and so we do know that there's supposed to be also a civil rights museum dedicated to the struggle in the Northeast. Any involvement with that?
Not yet, but I intend to be.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I'm
Well,
looking forward to the National Urban League coming to 125th Street. I think it's a very important, not only space, but involvement, and location and legacy there, because I think that's very, very important.
uh,
As we become more diverse in terms of, who lives here, who
yes,
resides here, who
yes.
worships here, we need to not lose sight of what was here, and what is here, and what can be here.
Very true. Well said. And I also have to say, and she's in another room, but my wife is already attracted to this the project, to the site. Why? Because now, Sharon, she has a Trader Joe's. Okay, just saying. And Night Watchman, don't even lie. You know you love it too.
Yeah, but it's not on my higher on the list of priorities. I'm more involved and concerned and delighted about these developments that outline our history. Yes, we shop at Trader Joe's, but I don't put that as part of our history. We just want better shopping options. So
Wow.
nothing wrong with that. But the work that Sharon's doing, the work that Saradine is doing in terms of preserving and promoting and sharing our legacy is what Harlem is about. Harlem has become known globally as a repository of African diaspora and African American culture. And to hear the development of these projects just lets us know that we continue to be in that leadership position. And we thank both Saradine and Sharon for their work in that regard.
Okay. Well said, Night Watchman. So you know what?
Were you surprised?
Ladies, were you surprised?
No.
Not at all. No.
Okay. I want to know, Sharon.
I appreciate your T-shirt, Classical Theater of Harlem. One of the things about Soul Lounge Prime Time is that we've been, we try to, make this show a platform for all of the cultural resources that we have in this community.
Bring the branding. As a matter of fact, Night Watchman, did you or did you not tell me that you will be going to a gala celebrating the 60th anniversary of New Heritage Theater?
Yes, and we were delighted to have Vosa Rivers and the new executive director, as well as TJ Temple-Jean, his executive assistant, on this show in October, I believe. Mm-hmm. And Curtis and I were actually privileged to actually get a walkthrough of the New Heritage office, which is literally a museum of African American culture. So we love this stuff.
Yes, yeah,
we love it.
Sharon, if you have not been there, please get there. 229 West 135th Street. Please get there.
Oh yes, I've been there, and I intend to be there, and I'll be at the celebration.
Very nice. Very nice. Great. Well, you know what, Night Watchman?
Time for the lightning round.
Lightning round. Okay, here goes. Okay, get ready. Okay, Saradine, you know I'm looking at you.
Or,
I'm coming your way. So,
all
what are
right.
your closing remarks, and what would you suggest to somebody new to understanding what's happening at the Harlem African Burial Ground? What should they do? Give me some closing remarks.
Well, yeah, they should go to our website. I will continue to plug that. If you just look up Harlem African Burial Ground, you can look that up on Google, and you'll see the EDC website. We also have an Instagram account, so at Harlem African Burial Ground, we'll post more, live updates. We talk about the show, we plug the show, and so I would encourage people to look on those sites to stay in the know.
Gotcha. All right. Thank you for that. Sharon, some closing remarks.
Well, there are going to be increasing opportunities. EDC has a full schedule for me in terms of, conversations and presentations and whatever, which I'm happy to do, to engage, to enlighten, to uplift a diverse community, which reaches not only in this city and state, but across the country and hopefully the diaspora.
Oh, excellent. Well said. So my question to Saradine and Sharon, you both are being invited back to the cookout. That's one.
Amazing.
But also, well, let's say the RP has been completed and there has been, let's say, a developer for the site identified. Will you come back on again and talk about what's going forward, what's going to be happening? Saradine.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we're already making the plans because I appreciate the forward thinking there.
Absolutely. Because, like I said, inquiring minds want to know.
Mm-hmm.
And before I hand it off to you, Night Watchman, and by the way, you guys have been calling me Curtis, which is indeed my name. But remember, it's DJ Leroy, not Leroy. It's Leroy. Saradine, it's French. Okay, just so you know.
Yeah, Leroy. Yes.
Okay, so so Night Watchman, can you take us home?
You've been listening to and watching Soul Lounge Primetime on WHCR 90.3 FM, the voice of Harlem. Also live streaming on YouTube and Facebook. You can always find us on Monday nights at 7 p.m. On the radio. That's 90.3 FM in Harlem, and at 8 o'clock live streaming on YouTube and Facebook. We want to thank our guests for sharing their insights and experiences, and we will expect to see you again next week when we have another engaging, exciting show. So exciting and engaging, we can't even tell you about it yet. So thanks for staying, and we'll see you.